Exactly. And we are live with the 4th episode of the Bronx Bomber Babble podcast. I'm your host, Luigi, Matt, Luzzy. You could call me any of those names. And I'm with Nick. And we have a new co-host. Welcome, Ryan Toms, a big contributor in the BBB realm. Ryan, how you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good, Luigi. I think it's kind of an understatement that I'm a big contributor. I would say that you need to think of a lot bigger word or another word to use there, just because you know how much I have to take on my plate with this blog. But I'm happy to be here and finally contribute vocally some of my Yankees takes with you guys.
You know, Ryan, I was going to let you explain that because I didn't want to do you any injustices, you know?
I was about an assistant to the manager.
I would say that works pretty well. Good term.
You know, Ryan, I'm not even worthy to shine your shoes, so I'm just out here. But, you know, Ryan, our tradition on the show is everybody's first guess. You have to give us your least favorite Yankee of all time and your hot take for the 2018 season. So, Ryan, go ahead.
Well, I'm not going to go as bold as say Chan-Ho Park is my least favorite Yankee. I'm going to go with someone who actually was on the team for more than like a month. So I'm going to go with Stephen Drew, who was the apparent heir to Robinson Cano at second base. Everyone had to see him play very wonderful baseball. He combined for a negative WAR in 2 seasons, hit below the Mendoza line, even though he was advertised as a great fielder. Constantly saw him botch balls, but you know, I think he hit one walk-off home run that everyone went berserk on. But other than that, he was terrible to watch, and every time he was up to bat, it made me cringe. I just didn't want to watch.
Yeah, that was original, very original, Ryan.
Stephen Drew is that's pretty appropriate, man. Just go on. I just got bad memories, man.
Probably had to think really hard for that one.
Yeah, honestly, I picked a couple of names out of a hat, and it just happened to be Stephen Drew.
Well, you know that there was talk. I saw a couple people say, you know, Stephen Drew might make sense maybe not necessarily make sense for the Yankees, but like that's a Yankees type move. They might bring him back, and thank God, Danny Espinosa took that crown as the veteran past his prime infielder the Yankees signed. But I was a little afraid there that we might see Stephen Drew round 2. And, you know, I don't want Torres, you know, one of the best prospects in all baseball, being blocked by Stephen Drew. We saw that show once already, and I don't want it again.
I know. I mean, Eduardo Nunez almost took up that role too. I remember when the Yankees rumors were out there for Nunez, everyone was blowing up, especially everyone here. Please do not bring back Nunez. I mean, he's not a bad player at this point in career. I'd say he's much better than Drew. But you just don't want to see a guy who he's already done his time with the Yankees block someone like a Gleyber or an Andujar.
I think if my dad was on the show, his least favorite Yankee would be Eduardo Nunez, man. Nunez pissed us off, man. I feel like he made an error every game I watched.
And every game his helmet flew off, rounding the bases, or he'd fall down. He'd do something to make everyone laugh and then scream at their television.
Yeah, what a character.
Just so you know, some people on Yankees Twitter wanted us to re-sign Eduardo Nunez in their entire breakdown of what they wanted the Yankees roster to be. So thank the good Lord that that guy's not running the team, because there were some people out there that wanted him back.
Agreed.
All right, Ryan, so that's a good least favorite Yankee. Now, this is the tough question. What's your hot take for the 2018 New York Yankees?
Well, I was choosing between a mid-season acquisition of a Chris Carter or a Stephen Drew, but I decided that might have been a little bit too bold. Mm-hmm. So I think I'm going to go with our good friend Masahiro Tanaka, who I know some of us at the blog really enjoy him as a player in the team. But I think this year he's going to bounce back, and my bold prediction is that he's going to start the most meaningful game of the playoffs again this year and make the All-Star game out of the Yankees rotation.
I mean, it really, if you look at last year and you just really hope that was just a really bad year, because the year before that he had a great year. I believe he finished 5th in Cy Young voting, I believe. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's really got to get back. Like I was saying on the previous show, I think if Tanaka was his normal self last year, the Yanks win that division. I know he pitched that gem against Boston. I think he pitched a couple of gems against Boston, but there was just too many AL East games where he single-handedly lost the game for the 5th inning.
Yeah, I just think with him, consistency is key, because if you think about it, he had the start against Oakland, the start against Boston. I think he had a start against Toronto as well, where he double-digit strikeouts, went the whole game, and just hitters looked absolutely lost against him. And then you had games like Derek Jeter Day, where he comes out here, the most important day in Yankees history since probably 2009.
Absolutely freaking right.
Yep. And this man I think it was first pitch of the game, George Springer took him deep. I mean, it was just terrible to watch
Just
at times.
disrespectful.
Very
Well, and one thing
disrespectful.
too that we haven't covered yet is how smart does Tanaka look for opting into the contract? Because I think a lot of us forget he could have been a free agent. He could have opted out and tried to get more money. But you look at this free agent market, and it's been very stagnant to say the least. So he looks smart for opting into the rest of this contract. And I got to say, I respect him for, I think he wants to play in pinstripes, and that's awesome. So I'm rooting for him. I think we've kind of established the last couple of vlogs that really the home run problems are here, and I don't think they're going anywhere. So it's really up to him to kind of manage around the occasional long ball, and hopefully he can keep more in the yard this year.
Yeah, it's just with Tanaka, he's going to give up home runs, right? Just like Judge is going to strike out a lot. These are just things, just like Betances is going to walk guys. These are things you have to accept, but it's just about managing all these things, right? Because last year you can't give up 35 home runs and call yourself an ace, man. That's just, 35 home runs, man. I know that's not the record. I don't even think he led the league in home runs given up, but
Pretty close, I think.
Yeah, that's a lot of home runs, man.
Mm.
Hopefully Masa could get back on track in 2018. It'll be very interesting to see. Now, we just wanted to really quick talk about spring training because, we're not going to go real deep into spring training and all the stats, but it is worth noting that the Yankees are 8-2 right now. They're having a very good spring. The two hitters that have really stuck out to me are the young guys because really, the veteran guys who already have spots, you really can't take too much of what they do. Greg Bird last year. But Miguel Andujar has just been doing great. And another guy that's been hitting really well is Tyler Wade. Tyler Wade's hitting .357 right now. When 14 at-bats, he's 5 for 14. So Tyler Wade's been doing, for a guy that literally looked like he could not hit for the life of him last year, he's had a pretty good spring so far. So do you guys see Wade or Andujar possibly playing themselves into a starting role? I'm not going to say an opening day starting role, but maybe a starting role by summer.
I think at this point, the Andujar and Drury thing is kind of a toss-up because Drury is not having a terrible spring by any means. You've seen him have a couple good extra base hits, but of course, Andujar is having a marvelous spring. But the fact that Drury already has the advantage over him, I'd say right now they're pretty neck and neck for that starting position. But Wade, I definitely think the Yankees should look into starting him at second base because he just provides a dynamic that this team really lacks. Other than Gardner, who's probably seen his best years of go behind him. Mm-hmm. The way I see Wade stretch out singles into doubles, and the two defensive plays he made in the past few games he played were phenomenal. I'm not sure if you saw the double play he turned in the Rays game, but that play was it was at shortstop, but nevertheless, it was phenomenal. And just I think that kind of versatility, the speed. Normally, he has a really good contact rate. I think that's something this team that's stacked on power severely lacks.
Well, I think I've pretty thoroughly covered why I think that Andujar is superior to Drury, but I think that Drury is going to definitely end up starting at second base this year. He's going to start in the infield at third or second, and with Torres probably going down for a bit in the minors. And Tyler Wade's an interesting case because he's hitting well right now. It's spring training, obviously, so maybe we could say the same for Andujar, but I look at Wade, and I would like to give him a second chance. He's kind of a better-rated defensive infielder. And like Ryan mentioned, he's very speedy. So honestly, my ideal starting infield, opening day, assuming Torres is going to be sent down, would be, Wade at second and Andujar at third. But boy, Wade is really going to have to come on and prove something because, again, the Yankees traded for Drury. So I think that they're pretty set on giving him some sort of role to start out. And, if I have to pick between Andujar and Wade, I'm going to go with Andujar. And, if Drury has to start at second over Wade.
Yeah, just to put into perspective what Tyler Wade did last year. He was 58 at-bats, 9 hits, negative .5 WAR. So I really do think he's going to have to earn that spot in some regular season, right? Whether that's an injury, whether that's – go on.
And a funny personal story about Tyler Wade, just to kind of put in perspective how bad he was last year. When you go to a Yankee game on the road, the Yankees travel well, and most people know who the players are. So I went to a Yankees game in Cleveland last year, and we went outside to the player parking lot after the game to, wait and try and get some autographs. And, a lot of the Yankees guys came out, got on the bus or whatever. But Tyler Wade came out, literally walked right out through the gate, walked right out through the crowd. I knew who he was, but nobody approached him asking him for any kind of autograph or nothing. So I know that really doesn't have anything to do with his, season or his ability, but it just kind of shows you that boy, he was that bad that, like, Yankees fans, I don't know if you've seen them, they'll flock to even guys who just got called up and haven't really done that much yet. So hopefully for Wade, man, I'd like to see him get a shot and maybe get a little bit more attention, but he's really going to have to, you know, hit his butt off this year to get a starting spot.
Yeah, he really is. Just because really, it's like you can't start a guy so soon that hit 150 last year, even if he is having a great spring, right? And a few other notes about how the Yankees are doing this spring. Get this: Jacoby Ellsbury, Brett Gardner, and Greg Bird are combined 3 for 33 so far this spring, with all 1 hit each. So,
not to mention one of those guys is a right back strain, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh yeah,
Sure you could guess who that is.
One of those guys tripped down the stairs and he's out till summer. So we have that going for us. But really,
it was crushed by one of his money bags.
He's trying to lift up some cash and just hurt his back.
Oh man. But yeah, so really spring training, you really can't look that into the stats. Really, the only stats you look into a whole lot are the young guys, right? So that's why I think it's really important that Wade and Andujar are they're just crushing the ball, right? And I think it's especially encouraging for Wade because of how bad he was last year. All right, so let's move on to our pinstripe previews now. We're going to do 3 each show from now until the season starts. And last show we did Didi, Greg Bird, and Betances. And this show, we're going to start off with Jordan Montgomery. Now, Jordan Montgomery, obviously, Judge was, the surprise of last year. I know I'm pretty good. Judge hit 50-plus home runs. But, Gumby, if it weren't for Judge, he would have gotten some serious Rookie of the Year consideration. I mean, he was 9-7 with a 3.88 ERA last year. I mean, he was a pretty solid number 4 guy for a guy that I never thought would crack this rotation, right? I thought a guy like Chance Adams or Justice Sheffield would be a fixture in the rotation before Montgomery. But the main thing with Montgomery is, will he be able to repeat what he did last year, right? Because I don't think anybody's expecting him to take a major step, right? Like nobody is just clamoring for Monty to get below a 3.5 ERA, right? And possibly make an all-star team. But if he improves on his numbers, he could be looking at that, right? I know it sounds crazy, but I don't know. What do you guys think of Gumby headed into 2018? Do you think he could repeat what he did last year?
Yeah, I think the thing about Gumby that most scouts raved about last year was him being a rookie and his poise on the mound was phenomenal. He'd give up a home run early on and he wouldn't look shook or anything. He would just go back out there and act like nothing happened and still try to do his best to keep the team in the game. And every rookie can come up and have the good stuff, but when you come up and have that poise and that attitude on the mound, I think that really says a lot for a young pitcher. So especially if he worked on his changeup as much as he did this offseason, as he said he did, and it looked good in the 2 or 3 outings he's had so far this spring. So I definitely think Gumby could – I mean, he's obviously the number 5 pitcher, but I definitely think he could put up number 3 or 4, maybe even 2 pitcher stuff and have like a really breakout season this year for the Yankees, especially with the comparisons he's gotten of Andy Pettitte. I'm not saying he's going to be the next Andy Pettitte, but I totally could see him kind of fitting that mold with the Yankees in the future. What do you think, Nick?
I'm going to let Nick – I'm going to just set this up for Nick real quick. What he said to me, which is a really good comparison, I thought. He said that Montgomery almost reminds him of a late career Andy Pettitte. And I'll let you elaborate on that, Nick. But I thought that was a really good comparison.
Yeah, and I'm going to stick with that. I mean, you look at him, and he's a guy who just pitches. He doesn't really blow people away. He's not running up high strikeout totals, but he knows how to pitch, pitch to contact and get outs. As Ryan kind of alluded to, I think the changeup will be huge for him because he said that in 2017 he kind of lost all feel for his changeup and was working with just a curve and a sinker and the occasional fastball. So I think it'd be huge if he could add the changeup in. I mean, as we've talked about in previous podcasts, having 4 or 5 pitches is huge for starters in today's game. You got to have, more tools in the toolbox to really get to that ace level. And there are people here at Bronx Bomber Ball that think that Jordan Montgomery has ace potential. In fact, there are people here who would not trade Jordan Montgomery and Tyler Wade for Marcus Stroman. Yes, Noah, I'm pointing to you. All love, but you're crazy. When I look at Jordan Montgomery, yeah, like I said, the late, career Andy Pettitte is what I see. I think, at the very, very best, he'll be a 2-starter, but I think the safest place to, kind of project him to be in a rotation is probably 3 or 4. And so this is a guy that, the Yankees didn't expect to be in the rotation last year. So, I mean, a 3 or 4 is fantastic. It's not like this guy was, a really highly touted prospect or anything. I think that this is just kind of the Yankees are playing with house money with this guy and won big. So I think he's, solid to be in the back of the rotation, and hopefully the top end really pans out. And so whether or not he, progresses or regresses, it'll all be okay.
Right. I really, it's just, because there's a part of me that just says, Montgomery's just going to blow up this year, right? Guys are just going to figure him out. There's a year of tape on him. Guys are just going to jump on his fastball. He's not going to blow guys away. But I don't know. What Ryan said could possibly be true. The guy just showed such poise and such veteran-like attributes for such a young pitcher that maybe that's going to carry him a long way, right? We've seen it before. But how about this? A little over and under here. Over and under a 4 ERA for Jordan Montgomery in 2018.
Under.
That is a really difficult question.
He was 3.88 last year in 155 and a third innings.
Well, to set this up for me, I think it all boils down to, does he get his changeup back or not? I think if he is able to add the changeup in an effective manner, then I think he could take a step forward. If not, well then, as a starter, you can only go so long with 2 or 3 pitches that really aren't overpowering to get by. So I'm going to go just barely over. I'll say that changeup doesn't get there quite yet, but I don't think he's going to be a train wreck. I do think compared to his last season, he'll take a little bit of a step back. That's pretty common with, sophomores in the MLB, but I don't think he'll be terrible by any means, but I'll go slightly over.
All right. What were you going to say, Ron?
Another factor I think that we're not really taking account for is that the Yankees are going to place him against other teams' number 5 starters. And with the Yankees offense, if they're not scoring 6 or 7 runs off a team's worst starting pitcher, then there's a pretty big problem. So if Montgomery's pitching every 5th day against these number 5 starters and the Yankees are able to put up 6 or 7 runs, I think that'll really allow him to relax and just pitch to his best ability he can, which I think will really help him in the long haul, along with the changeup and the other things he's been working on. So I'm going to go – Nick went barely over. I'm going to go barely under, like a 3.9. I'd say that's a pretty good ceiling.
I would probably go between 4.2 and 4.6. I think he's going to regress a little bit this year. But, hey, I mean, who knows, right? Maybe Noah's right. Maybe Gumby does win the Cy Young, right?
Maybe.
No. He's wrong.
Hey, to each their own, am I right? I mean,
yeah.
No, in this one, you're just wrong.
Yeah,
in this one, you're just wrong.
Hey, let some people dream, Nick. Come on.
Man, was Andy Pettitte ever an ace? Let me tell you, Andy Pettitte was pretty dang good, and I love that guy. But it's you don't have to be an ace to be that good. So I just think that would be an unreasonable expectation to put on the guy.
That's a pretty good point, Nick.
So I don't know.
Well, we'll see. A lot to be determined with Montgomery for next year, but only time will tell, right? Now let's move on to our next pinstripe preview. He's the best prospect on the Yankees, right? And that's all I need to say. It's Gleyber Torres. Guys, what do you think of Gleyber's 2018? What's going to happen?
Well, I don't know what we can really say that we haven't already said in the last couple.
It's so up for debate. Like Gleyber could be this year's Aaron Judge. We might not see him at all. Like I don't know.
I think we're definitely going to see him in 28. I mean, barring like an injury or something, we're definitely going to see him. I think he's definitely going down for a couple weeks, as we previously discussed. He's got I think how many games is it? 16. I can't remember.
The old like Chris Bryant thing they did, right, where he literally got
correct.
Yeah,
I think if he stays down, don't quote me on this, but 16 games, or it's only a couple games.
Yeah, I think it was like about a month. It's about the first
month.
Of the season.
Okay, it's really not. It's not much. I think it amounts to 2-3 weeks, basically, that they're going to send him down, and effectively doing so will delay his service time, and then pretty much give him an extra year of team control. So I think he's going down for a bit, but I think once he has his legs underneath him, I mean, he is coming back from surgery on his non-throwing elbow. I think once he reestablishes himself, we're going to see him in the Bronx. Again, we've talked about it. This guy is one of the most elite hitters for his age in all the game. MLB.com has said this guy is going to contend for batting titles and also has 20 home run pop, which in Yankee Stadium in this juice ball era, that could easily be a 30 home run pop. You take a guy. I don't know if this is really the best comp. It's just off the top of my head. but kind of reminds me of a Jose Altuve type guy in the fact that, you know, he gets the bat on the ball. He just got a lot of raw tools. And so I don't know. I think we're going to see him for a good portion of the season. And if I had to pick a rookie of the year today, it's tough between him and Andujar, but I'm definitely picking one of those two. I think that he or Andujar are really going to step up for the Yankees, but I think we're going to see nothing but good things from Torres. It's not often you see a young prospect, a 21-year-old kid, being rated as, you know, such an elite and advanced hitter.
And the thing that impressed me about Gleyber real quick, Ryan, is he was hitting 273 in Double-A when he got called up, but then he actually improved on his batting average in Triple-A and improved on his numbers overall, hitting 306 in Triple-A. So I think, because I remember seeing last year, I was kind of surprised he wasn't tearing up Double-A, right? But it's an adjustment period for everyone. A lot of times Double-A is actually tougher than Triple-A because you get the elite prospects in Double-A. But Ryan, what do you think about Gleyber?
Yeah, I think one of the things people are forgetting, Matt and Nick, is that he's 21 years old. Like people, like this
really
guy, he seems like he's been around forever. Like he was on the Cubs, and then he came over here, and he was already pretty highly touted.
That trade seems like it was 5 years ago.
It really does, especially because that's when the Yankees were not in playoff contention. It seems like even after just last year that the Yankees have been relevant for so long now. But I just think people forget how young he is and that it's not the end of the world if he's not on the opening day roster. He's 21 years old. I think don't quote me on this, but I think he obviously has under 100 at bat since AAA. I'm not sure the exact number. And then the man just missed a whole summer because of Tommy John surgery. I mean, given it was his non-throwing shoulder or elbow, but I do think he needs to accumulate the at-bats in AAA, see some pitching, kind of like what they said about Clint Frazier last year. He's MLB ready, but he's got to fine-tune a few things in his mechanics to be the best player he can be. Yeah,
it says Torres had 81 AAA at-bats. So, yeah, he needs some more experience down there. And the over and under I'm going to put for Gleyber, over or under 100 games in the majors for Gleyber this year.
I'll go over.
I'm going to go under.
I'm going to go right under, maybe 80 to 90. That's what I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's just going to be, because if he's not there the first month of the season, right, it's already 20 plus games, right? So,
to me, I'm not thinking he's going to be down that long. I think that once my hope is that he'd get to AAA and just start hitting and catch fire and force the issue right away. To kind of go back to my Jose Altuve comp, to kind of put it in perspective, Jose Altuve hit 346 with 24 home runs this year. I think that's a good comp for Torres, and that kind of player in the Yankees lineup would be, fantastic in a lineup that's already stacked with, more power-oriented hitters. To get a guy who's got the contact, to hit for a high average would be just great for this team. I can't say it enough. And also, guys, how good does that Aroldis Chapman trade look right now? I mean, the Yankees got Torres, they got Adam Warren back, and Billy McKinney's really come on. He's been hitting well this spring. He was a prospect who kind of was losing some luster when he came over to the Yankees, but really has done nothing but rebound and build his stock back. And they traded that all for, a half a season of Aroldis Chapman. And granted, Chapman, it wasn't just him taking him to the World Series, but he contributed in a big way to that World Series. But man, the Yankees are kind of setting up to potentially be the winners long-term from that if these guys can come up and contribute to a ring or two.
Well, that was one of those trades where it was like a once-in-a-lifetime type of trade, right? Because you're not going to find many situations where a team's going to say, hey, we will literally trade for this guy for half a year to get our first title in over 100 years. Like, that's worth it, right? Whereas in another situation where a team just won a title and then they lost them, it would be pretty bad. But for the Cubs, they would do that 100 times again to get that elusive World Series that they finally got last year. So
150 years had it been.
Our last, I was about to say, I was going to put an exact number on, but I'm like, I just know it's over 100 years. 107, what was it, 1903? It's terrible.
It was probably a number Aroldis Chapman can throw. That's how big it was.
Oh, man. Okay, so our third pinstripe preview is none other than the biggest free agent signing in the history of everything. I'm just kidding. He wasn't even a free agent signing.
It's good try.
It's Giancarlo Stanton. And Can you guys come on? I'm calling it a free agent signing because trading Starling Castro,
it essentially was, yes.
Like, that's a free agent signing. Like we got Giancarlo Stanton for basically nothing, right? The guy that hit 59 home runs last year, the guy that won the National League MVP award, the only other guy that, in terms of StatCast, even really compares to Judge, right? Like every StatCast list you see is just Judge Stanton, Judge Stanton. So, I mean, it really is. Like, we haven't talked about this a lot on the pod because it's like beating a dead horse, but it's going to be fun to watch Judge and Stanton in the same lineup. And, just take it away, guys. I'm having a moment here.
I'll take it from you. I appreciate what you did for us there, but again, we kind of talked about Stanton on and off the last couple podcasts, and again, this is a guy who hit 59 home runs, 132 runs driven in, and hit 281 for the Marlins last year. And again, let's recap: the Marlins ballpark is a canyon; it's gigantic, and the Marlins lineup
pitcher friendly.
Correct, and the Marlins lineup. I don't know. I wouldn't say it's elite by any means. They had a couple good hitters who are now all on different teams, by the way. But it's nothing compared to, how stacked the Yankees lineup is. So you put him in the Yankees lineup in Yankee Stadium, and I think 60 home runs is a realistic possibility. And honestly, to me, this is if I have to pick a Yankee for the MVP candidate, I'm picking Stanton. And I think he's got a really good chance. I assume we're all going to say that Mike Trout's probably the favorite for the MVP in the AL just because he's Mike Trout. But I would peg Stanton as definitely a really good chance to catch him because I think he can put up better numbers in this ballpark and in this lineup and really contribute for the Yankees. And one thing that we kind of maybe skipped over in spring training that's been interesting is the Yankees, I think, had him in left field the other day, and that didn't really go too well. Some people on Twitter are really freaking out about that. Okay, you want to hold off on that for now?
I said we'll go into a little bit later. Go on.
Okay, sounds good. No, that's fine. We'll hold off on that. But basically, I think that if the Yankees, rotate him and Judge in and out of the DH spot, the one knock on Stanton throughout his career has been injuries and the ability to stay healthy. And I think coming to the American League, where hopefully he and Judge can, swap some at-bats at DH, can keep them both fresh. So I expect nothing but big things from Giancarlo Stanton, and this was just a steal of a trade. Obviously it's a salary dump, but man, how often are you able to trade Starling Castro for the reigning NL MVP? It's just nuts.
Yeah, there really isn't much more to add to that. Nick basically covered it all, but there is one thing I want to throw out there. Have you guys noticed how strong Giancarlo Stanton is?
Really?
His pop-ups go to the wall, man. I mean, he's going to be hitting pop-ups in Yankee Stadium that go over the wall, like, effortlessly.
Wait, Giancarlo Stanton, he's strong? Nobody in the sports media has told me that.
I saw some of his workout videos. That man looked pretty strong, dude. The way his shirt was, I don't know, man. Something was telling me he's really big.
Does he work out?
I mean, I assume so.
Oh man, I wonder if he takes protein.
All right, since there's everything you could say about Stanton has already been said, but because look, since we got Stanton, right, I've been hearing and I've been seeing a lot on Twitter what Sterling's home run call is going to be, and there's two that just really stick out to me. I think it's a two-horse race. It's either Giancarlo hits it Giancarlo, or he hit it to Staten Island. Now.
I'm all in
Giancarlo.
Staten Island camp.
Nope, I am a Giancarlo. Nope, Giancarlo hits it Giancarlo is gold.
I'm sorry. You can go hang out with Noah in the wrong camp on this podcast, and it's going to be Staten Island. I'm telling you.
Ryan, be the.
I'm gonna go on a limb here and say that it's gonna be neither of those two calls. I think it's gonna be something like that no one could have predicted. He's pretty good at coming up with the most random calls ever, and I think that's what he's gonna do here. I think he's not going to cave into all the Twitter demands and all the hype about it. I think he's gonna. Come
on, Sterling doesn't even know what Twitter is. Come on,
for all we know, Sterling still thinks that his name is Mike. He might just think his name is Mike still. He doesn't know it's Giancarlo. He's probably going to go with something having to do with Mike at this point. Him and Susan, I mean, good grief. They haven't ever messed anything up before. So, I don't know. Look for maybe a Mike call.
I got an over-under for you guys. Over-under, Susan calls Stanton Mike 15 times this season.
In the first month, over.
Yeah, we'll go over.
We'll go way over.
Well over, actually.
Yo, speaking of the Yankees announcers, did you guys see on Twitter today those photo shoots?
Ken Singleton, man.
Oh my
those
God.
Sunglasses. That man is.
There's a picture where they were like every person on the Yes broadcasting team was like, I think they were in the bathroom and they were all like holding a mic. And that was the last time I've been on Twitter today. Like I logged out of Twitter, I closed my laptop. That was pretty unique by the fog.
The picture with the fog.
I did not see that, and I don't think I want to see that at all.
Yeah,
I'm gonna.
I don't think you do want to see it. You know,
you're totally getting tagged in it after this, Nick. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Please don't.
But yeah, so Giancarlo Stanton, it's really not going to set in until he's in Yankee Stadium in those pinstripes, just in front of all those people. That's what, because look, watching him in spring training, still waiting for him to hit his first spring training home run, but it's just I can't wait to see him in Yankee Stadium, man. It's going to be special, and it's like really has there ever been? Because probably not. Has there ever been two teammates that hit 50 home runs the year before that joined up? Never happened, right? There's no way.
I'd say probably not. And something that we mentioned, in the last couple of podcasts, I don't think there's any better three hitters on the same team than Gary, Giancarlo, and Judge. I just don't think they're there.
Yeah, I agree.
You look at those guys, and they could. I mean, this is pushing it a little bit, but hey, 150 home runs isn't out of the realm of possibility. If Stanton puts up 60, if Judge puts up 50, and if Sanchez, I think we all can agree, if he plays a full season, he's got 40 home run power. So that's a big if, but theoretically, I don't think 150 is out of the realm of possibility.
No, I don't either. I do not either. All three of those guys have potential to not just hit 40 plus. All three of those guys have potential to lead the league in home runs. It's as simple as that.
It's absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
All right, so those were our 3 pinstripe previews for this week. This episode, we'll pick 3 more for next show. Now let's move on to. We're going to do a little mini series here in spring training where we're going to preview. We're going to kind of break down, just talk about the biggest competitors to the Yankees. And today we're going to start off with the team that the Yankees came back against, being down 2 games to none and winning 3 straight. And yes, that is the Cleveland Indians, Nick's team.
Hometown team.
Oh,
now the Cleveland Indians,
favorite team.
Yeah, his least favorite team. Now the Indians last year, they had the best record in the AL. It was not the Astros. The Indians won 102 games last year with that ridiculous win streak. I mean, that was one of the craziest things we've seen in sports in a while. I mean, the Indians were, I believe, 48-40 at one point, and then from mid-August to almost mid-September, they just could not lose, right? So the Indians, they got a squad, but everyone is talking about, especially with the Verlander comment, where Verlander angrily said, the AL goes through us, not the Yankees. And to even say that just shows that you're insecure.
I love your Verlander impression, Luigi.
That was my Verlander impression. Kate Upton hit me up. But, the Indians, they still got a stacked team, man. I mean, they still got that guy by the name of Corey Kluber, or as I like to call him, Didi Gregorius Jr. Poor guy. Didi ruined that guy. That guy's gonna come out and have like a 5.5 ERA next year. I think Didi ruined that guy's life. But you got guys like Edwin Encarnacion and Carlos Santana, Jose Ramirez. I mean, this Indians team is gonna be good. So guys, do you think the Indians are? Do you guys think the Indians are a bigger threat than the Astros? I know that might sound like a crazy question, but it might be valid.
Well, to the Indians fan that was holding the one epic collapse sign behind home plate in the playoffs, I just want to say that your team has 0-5 the last 2 years in game-clinching series in the playoffs. Series-clinching games, sorry.
That's crazy, right? 5 straight losses.
A little dyslexia set in there, but yeah, guys, I've been pretty open about this. The Indians are my least favorite team, but you've got to respect them. They have the best record in all of baseball, if my math is correct, the last 2 years. Obviously, as Luigi alluded to, they had an incredible win streak last year and won 102 games. So I don't know what it is that this team just doesn't. I mean, obviously in 2016 they got to the World Series, but man, did they fall flat last year? And I loved every second of it. But I think when you look at the Indians, you got to look and see. They lost Carlos Santana and Jay Bruce, which were huge offensive pieces in their lineup. And really, they replaced it with Yonder Alonso, which that guy had a great first half, but then really fell off the table. I'm not really a believer in him. So that lineup, really outside of Lindor, Ramirez, and Encarnacion, doesn't really scare me at all. Encarnacion hits homers, but you can strike him out. Jose and Frankie Lindor are two batters that you really do got to be careful with. They can do it. They can take you for a base hit or take you deep. But really, the strength of the Indians is their pitching staff. Corey Kluber, Cy Young winner. I don't think I'd really need to go into much depth with him. But also Carlos Carrasco. People don't really look at him that much and give him the credit that he's due. He put up a 3.29 ERA with 200 innings pitched and over 200 strikeouts this year. So that's Kluber-like stats.
The reason I'm so scared of the Indians is because is there anything scarier in a game than if Kluber starts, right? Let's say you go 6 innings, you bring in Miller for like an inning 2/3, and then you go to Allen. That might be the best 1, 2, 3 in all baseball. Like I know the Yankees.
Well, that's what I was going to get to.
That's brutal, man. I know we really didn't see it come to fruition, right, in the ALDS last year because Kluber just wasn't himself. But man, you look, if a guy like Kluber, that guy, hey, he's not going to be like that all the time, right? Like if we face the Indians this year in the playoffs, like there's a good chance that he's gonna throw one of those gems that he's thrown so many times before.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, I think I can't remember if it was a complete game or not, but the game I mentioned earlier this year that I was at, Kluber pitched, and he shut out the Yankees. I mean, I'm pretty sure it was a complete game shutout. It wasn't really even close, and it's good that you bring up. I was going to get to, Andrew Miller and Cody Allen are very good. They did lose Brian Shaw, who a lot of Indians fans will tell you he's not that great, but he's not bad either. I mean, he's a solid piece. But, yeah, you could say that the Yankees had the best bullpen top to bottom. But, hey, the Indians might have the best, like you said, 1, 2, 3 pitchers between, starter to reliever. So I think that definitely plays in too. However, overall, I'm going to say I think they're going to take a step back this year. I think they're going to win the division pretty much by default. That's a pretty terrible division. Outside the Twins made the wild card, but I don't think they're seriously threatening the Indians for the division. But I look at this team, and your outfield is going to be Michael Brantley, Bradley Zimmer, and Lonnie Chisenhall. And Zimmer's an up-and-coming prospect who could be pretty good, but Brantley, man, he was so good back in the day. He was one of my friend's favorite players, and just injuries have wrecked him. It's so funny because Mark Teixeira was my guy, and Michael Brantley was his, and it just seems like injuries really took those guys out of the game entirely. It's terrible. And you look at Jason Kipnis, who he was good for a couple of years, and he just hasn't been, back since. And so I don't know. I look at the Indians, and I'd put the Yankees above. If I had to rank teams right now, I'm putting the Yankees above the Indians. I think they lost a lot in Carlos Santana and Jay Bruce. And I don't know, man. They just seem to have the yips when it comes to the playoffs. That they just can't seal the deal. Andrew Miller, Greg Bird says, "What's up?" But we miss you, brother.
Yeah, man. Miller really is a guy that I every time I watch him pitch and every time I see him just have those ridiculous numbers and just basically pitching every game, it makes you miss him, right? But who the Indians do have as their third string second baseman? Robbie Ref.
Oh, throwback.
That was the first point I was going to make when I talked about the Indians. Rob Refsnyder.
I just saw his name.
Yeah, I think I actually came across that the other day. Rob, my Rob Refsnyder breakdown?
Yeah, break it down for us. How's it going to lead the Indians to the World Series?
Well, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Jason Kipnis is going to break his leg in the first month, and Rob Refsnyder is going to have to be plugged in as the everyday second baseman. And I think this man, he was such a good prospect. It's crazy to think how far the Yankees farm system has come, because I remember Rob Refsnyder was
Robbie Ref was the guy in our farm system.
He was Gleyber Torres before Gleyber Torres even knew what a baseball was. This man was going to be the next big Yankee second baseman. That's why I like Canogo, in all honesty, because they're we got Rob Refsnyder coming up. We're going to plug in Steven Drew for 2 years. Let him hit 180.
Steven Drew ruined his life.
And we'll put Rob Refsnyder when he's ready, which I guess never happened because the Yankees DFA'd him last year and then traded him to the Blue Jays for a single-A first baseman. But, honestly, I'm kind of with you, Nick. This Indians team doesn't intimidate me at all. Other than the starting rotation, if you're able to get through that, if you're able to get in their heads and get them out early, other than Andrew Miller, Cody Allen doesn't even really scare me that much. I would say if he was on the Yankees, he'd probably be their fourth best reliever, if we're being honest.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I don't know, like their outfield I think is average at best. Bradley Zimmer hasn't proved anything. Lonnie Chisenhall's a platoon player. Michael Brantley can barely even stay on the field. So I don't really think that we're really going to see anything too crazy out of their outfield. So unless Lindor and Ramirez repeat what they did, which they had career years last year. So I kind of think last year might have been their ceilings as to what they could accomplish in the major leagues. So unless they somehow go above and beyond that, I think the Indians are definitely below the Yankees and definitely below the Astros.
Yeah, I would
look
say
at that.
no,
you look at that rotation, and you know, Kluber and Carrasco are a good one too. But man, kind of at the bottom three, there's some question marks as well. Trevor Bauer, man, I look at him in like a Michael Pineda kind of way. Like when he's on, he's on. But man, when he's off, he's running up high pitch counts. You know, walking people left and right. Salazar.
Yeah, we talked about
Salazar's been good when he's. Oh yeah, Jerome boy, cutting his fingers.
Don't forget
4 games in the World Series.
He's reckless,
real brilliant
guy. What game
and,
was that? Like 1 or 2 where he hit the blood was just gushing from his.
Oh yeah, I think it was game 2. I was actually at that game, and it was pretty crazy. Like, you're bleeding too much on the ball, bro. Like, I'm sorry, but we can't have this anymore. And Danny Salazar, when he's been healthy, he's been good, but health is, a concern for him. And so, yeah, like Ryan says, they don't intimidate me. Andrew Miller used to intimidate me, and then I saw Greg Bird suck the living soul out of that man. And, boy, I wonder how much did that have to take the air out of the sails of the Indians. And then, you see Didi Gregorius taking Corey Kluber deep twice. I love every second of it, dude. Like, that must have just been the worst possible way to get out of the playoffs this year. You think you lose the World Series, you go up 3-1 and lose the World Series, and then follow it up with going up 2-0 on the Yankees, a team that Indians fans just hate just for all the trades. They always tell you that the Yankees took all their players back, kind of in the early mid 2000s, and boy, that just must have been some salt in the wound, and I loved every second of it.
Not gonna lie, Nick, I watched those videos of Didi's home runs and Greg Bird's home run off of Andrew Miller at least 3 or 4 times a day. And that's probably an understatement, honestly.
I've watched back both those videos at least 20 times each, and that 20 times is
with the Titanic music on it.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I put that on our Twitter with the Titanic music. I think that might have been one of our most retweeted tweets of all time.
And just like how great were those Matty V calls? Because look, I'm not a guy that is like, a lot of people hate Joe Buck, and not like a lot of people will say about Joe Buck that he just, in all these big moments, he just like doesn't do good calls. But Matty Vasgersian, man, those are some great calls he had in the postseason. Even one of the Indians home runs where he did the old Santa Maria. That guy knows how to call home runs, man.
He's a great addition to ESPN.
Really glad he's going to be on Sunday Night Baseball, considering the Yankees are probably going to have like half their games on Sunday Night.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be Yankees and Cubs and Dodgers probably every other weekend on a rotation.
So yeah, it's Matty V, A-Rod, and Jessica Mendoza.
Yeah, right? that girl that they
oh my,
they love over
take
there.
the good with the bad.
No.
Well, I'm surprised that Greg Bird didn't get ejected in that game, because if I'm the umpire, I'm saying you got to get out of here. You just can't shit on somebody like that. Like, oh my lord, you got to get out.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Soul Sucks against Major League Baseball's rules. Like, I'm pretty sure
that was just the most savage and immoral thing I've ever seen. I almost turned my TV off. I'm like, oh my god, I don't think I can unsee that.
Yeah,
live television, just murdering him. Oh my lord.
So guys, if you had to make a prediction, do you think that the Indians are going to face the same fate as they did last year? I know it's kind of hard to predict because you just don't know what's going to happen, right, in terms of matchups, but I could see a Yankees-Indians first-round matchup once again in that 2 versus 3 spot.
Well, yeah, I could see it. I think that the Yankees and the Astros are going to be duking it out for the top record in the league, but I honestly see another first-round exit for the Indians. Again, I think they're going to make it there, but I just don't think they have the firepower. They're very top-heavy in their rotation, and again, that lineup really isn't inspiring anybody. So I think they'll make the playoffs, but I think you're looking at another first-round exit for them, unfortunately for them.
I got a bold prediction for the Indians. I'm going to say the Twins win the division. Indians are eliminated in the playoff, 1-game playoff.
Wow. Oh, wow. Cleveland, you heard it here first. Ryan hates you.
Jake Odorizzi is going to pitch that wild card game and lead the Twins to the ALDS.
Yeah, the Twins might have been the most surprising team last year. Obviously, other than the Yankees, the team that won 70 games the year before, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, made the playoffs. So I wouldn't be surprised if they had another nice season. And hey, if Cleveland takes a step back, if they take a step forward, that's all it takes, right?
They gave the Yankees time to go. You got to give them some credit.
That's a very
Didi
good point.
Gregorius needs to be careful when he travels to the AL Central ballparks because he did a lot of bad things to AL Central teams last year in the playoffs. Just a lot of filthy, dirty things.
What we always forget about Didi? He had 3 of the biggest home runs within the first 6 Yankee playoffs game. Those were like his only 3 hits in those games. Like he was hitting, I believe, heading into that game 5, he was like at 150, 170 for the postseason. But
what matters.
That's fine.
That's what's good about the postseason, right? You remember the big one. So that was our little Cleveland preview. We'll probably do Boston next week. The whole JD Martinez thing and
savior of Boston baseball.
They think they're actually on the same level as in my opinion, the Yankees, the Astros, the Indians, and the Dodgers are just all on another level. The Red Sox are not on that level yet, in my opinion. Not when your best pitcher is Chris Sale and a guy that literally breaks down every year starting in late August. But we'll get more into that on our next preview. Now, just a few things to close the show. Now, Ryan, you had a question submitted to you, I believe.
I did, actually, from one of our biggest fans, I would say.
Really?
Let me pull it up on Twitter real quick. Yeah, he used to be an editor.
Let me get my gavel out.
All rise for this question. That gavel sounded too big to be true.
Oh.
All right, here we go.
That's a perfect transition.
So Steven Erickson, he's tweeted at the Bronx Bomber Ball Twitter. Tell me why Aaron Boone will be a better manager than Joe Girardi.
I'll take this. Now, look, I have no idea how Boone manages, right? Boone might want to go all 4 lefties and then 5 righties in the lineup, right? He might want to play all lefty outfielders. I have no idea what Boone wants to do as a manager, right? But I'll tell you this. I think that Aaron Boone is going to be so much more laid back than Joe Girardi, right? Because so often Girardi's biggest problem, and I think what ultimately cost him his job, was he did not watch the game on the field enough. He was so preoccupied looking at that, you guessed it, that binder, that he wouldn't even watch the game in front of him. He would take out a guy who just struck out 2 hitters with ease to put in a lefty-lefty matchup, right? He would do things like that all the time, and a lot of times it cost him. Now, with this Yankee team this year, this is a team that might have so much talent that I could go out and manage them to an AL East title. Right? Honestly, they're going to be so talented that you don't need to overmanage this team. And I think Boone, just considering, how he is and how he seems to carry himself, he's very laid back. He's very relaxed. He's not going to overmanage. He's going to let these guys play. And I know that's such a general thing to say, but I think it's really true. I think he's actually going to he's going to use his baseball mind by watching the game and not the binder. That's just what I think. I could be wrong. Who knows? He could be even more analytical than Girardi. But I think the main reason the Yankees went with a guy like Boone and they didn't go with, because who are the 6 Yankee candidates for the job? There was a lot of older guys. And I think there's a reason they went with Aaron Boone.
Well, I know they definitely wanted a guy who would relate to the players better. Exactly. So I think they said that Girardi kind of lost favor in the clubhouse. So hopefully he kind of clicks with the guys better, kind of has their support more than Girardi. And then I agree entirely with everything you said. There were reports out there saying that the Yankees kind of wanted an analytics-oriented mind, in addition to being a younger guy, you can get along with the players. But I'm along, the same mindset as far as it's not going to be, we're going to consult, a stat book that says in this certain situation, we absolutely have to do this. I think there's going to be a lot more feel of the game, which I think is exactly the switch that the Yankees needed. Girardi had his moments where he made some pretty brilliant moves, and then he had his moments where he probably lost games just by overmanaging. So I think it'll just be a more relaxed atmosphere overall, which I think is what a young group of guys kind of needs. Obviously, there's going to be accountability, but at the same time, I think Girardi had this death grip on a really young locker room. I think that just does more harm than good.
It's not what you want.
I was going to say this is what you want with Aaron Boone. But yeah, I agree with you guys. I read a couple things on MLB.com. They're talking about what they've noticed different about Boone from Girardi from just spring training, and I think MLB.com really focused on how positive Boone is and how uplifting he is and how like he's there for the players. He's trying to make these connections. Like even when he was doing an interview with Michael Kay on a Yes broadcast a few games ago, and even during the interview, he was clapping for players like Gleyber turned a double play, and he's like, "That a boy, Gleyber." Like, I just really think he's going to be a player's manager. He's going to let them do their thing, but he's also going to he's going to have a voice. He's not going to just be there and let the players choose everything. I think he really is going to have an impact for the good on that clubhouse as a whole.
It's just cool because I can imagine like Boone after a game, like going out to the club with those guys. Like, you know, like I could see Boone and CC like going out to a club in the city. Like,
do you guys remember that picture on the plane where all those guys were dressed with their fancy suits and like Chase Headley was on the back on his iPad? Like I feel like Girardi's the guy in the iPad and Boone would be the guy who's front and center in that picture. Like I think that's the difference between them as a manager.
Yeah, I think because, you know, like you said, Boone could be super analytical, but I really think it's just going to be so nice because I think, look, Girardi was the manager for a decade, right? He was the manager for a good amount of time where we gotten so used to just, you know, watching a Yankee game managed by Girardi's ways, right?
I was 9 years old when he became manager. It's crazy to think about.
He's been there all those years, and you know, I've always said this, and I know they eventually won the series, but what Girardi did game 2 when he took CC out, that cost him his job. Like the Yankees could have won the World Series last year. He's still not the manager. Like I truly believe that because like that because you guys remember how bad that was. Like Girardi had to come out like crying, like he was almost like in tears in that podium, right? And like I thought that was, you know, when you think about it, it was pretty special how the Yankees, you know, they didn't win that series for Girardi, but they rallied around and they picked up their coach, you know, and obviously it couldn't save them. But I mean, that was like an all time. It was literally like just every bad move Girardi made was just piling up to that moment, right? Where it was like the whole world was just watching you screw up. The whole world watched you take out your pitcher in the 5th inning who was just cruising. So
I'm pretty sure I was live tweeting that game, and I've never tweeted so many tweets in all capital letters in a span of 30 seconds.
I don't even look. People talk about him not challenging. Like, yeah, that was bad. But I just get so caught up about him taking out CC. I think he had 76 pitches. He wasn't even through 5 innings. I stood up off my couch and said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Like, what the hell are you doing, Girardi?" CC was just having – I mean, CC was great all postseason last year, but he was just having such a good game. And to take him out and put in Chad Green in the spot that he didn't need to be in was just cost him his job. And so, yeah, I think there's just going to be a lot less out with Boone. And look, Boone's going to screw up, right? Boone's going to make bad moves, but there's going to be – I don't think we're going to be calling him Binder Boone, you know?
No,
I don't think that's the case.
Yeah. So let's end the show with a simple question from our own Alex Weir. Who's the best at Fortnite?
I don't know, Luigi. Who's the best at Fortnite?
I'm voting for Luigi.
Well,
I'm going with Luigi. I've seen Luigi. I've fought alongside Luigi proudly in Fortnite and seen what he's capable of. Ryan, I'm sorry, but you play on Xbox, and you have great hair, but you're not better than Luigi at Fortnite. And
just simply because they play on
Xbox. It's a 2-1. It's a 2-1 vote here. So I'm sorry, but
we need a bigger sample size. This is
this was just a rhetorical question and just something I wanted to put out there. But yeah, I'm probably the best at Fortnite.
I've got 3 wins, guys.
Also, just another quick note: we had our Bronx Bomber Ball fantasy draft last night, and got some really bad teams. See, we did a 14-team league, right? And I mean, that draft, I mean, oh my God.
Took forever.
I shaved in the beginning of the draft and I had a full beard by the time the draft ended. Like, that's how long that draft was. I mean, with 14 teams, you got to the middle of the draft and you were like, well, which below average player am I going to pick now?
And you picked Luis Sessa, so.
My last pick was Luis Sessa. I already dropped him. I also picked Clint Frazier. Don't know why I did that. He's probably going to total like 15 points this year. So, yeah. How do you guys feel about your fantasy teams?
Yeah, that draft was longer than an MLB game. That's how long that was.
Oh,
pretty terrible, right?
We need to figure out how to make this draft 5 minutes shorter.
Maybe more people
Yeah,
play baseball to make the draft shorter.
Yeah, more people would play fantasy baseball if the drafts weren't.
Yeah. I put on a pitch clock, and it didn't seem to have much of an effect. But
yeah,
I don't know. Kind of like Luigi alluded to, it's the league is very thin. I think there's some very bad teams, but there's not exactly like a very good team. There wasn't really that much controversy in the draft itself. I think maybe the biggest eye-popping move was me. I had the 14th pick, so I went with the safe move in Joey Votto at 14. I think that's about the safest bet you can get in a guy to produce and put up solid numbers. And then at 15, I went with Gary Sanchez because I wasn't going to pick for like another 26 picks after that. That's how long I have to go between. And the catcher position is probably the thinnest in all of Major League Baseball. There's Gary and Buster Posey, and then, you got to pray that you find a semi-competent catcher. So that's what I picked.
Wilson Contreras was the third-ranked catcher, which is, it's like he's nowhere near for your Buster.
Yeah,
maybe
honestly,
something that kind of surprised me is Didi Gregorius went in the second round at 27. I think that's. I mean, that was Dan the man.
I mean, are you surprised? Come on. This man canceled his date for the draft. Come on.
Surprised. Yeah, that's true. But I want to run a trade by you guys that I sent to our very own Cameron. I don't know how to pronounce the last name. We're going to say Hawes. It looks like Gauze, but with an H.
I'm going to go Hayes.
Hayes. Okay, sure. I sent him a trade of Aaron Alder. Not a bad Phillies outfielder, up-and-coming guy. He's got potential. And Danny Salazar, which he's, full disclosure, a rebound candidate.
Part of that good Indians rotation.
Right. And so I packaged them up and I sent them in a trade for Corey Dickerson and Alex Cobb. And my rationale was, hey, Alex Cobb doesn't have a team yet. And honestly, you look at his numbers, he's consistent. He'll put up, okay-ish numbers, but he's not going to be an ace, but he's probably not going to be much worse. And so Cameron had the gall to say that trade was not even close and then sent me Corey Dickerson for Daniel Murphy straight up. So, Cameron, you are a douche. You don't know anything about fantasy baseball.
Shohei Ohtani for second pick. What are you going to –
correct. Well, and he also picked Jake Arrieta at 79. So, I don't want you to sit here and tell me that
free agents should not be drafted.
Oh, don't even start this. Oh, my Lord.
I think the only free agent I got on my team was Moustakas. Probably the best free agent right now.
Which and they're all going to have teams, in the end. But yeah, Cameron, that's not cool, dude. You don't know how fantasy sports work. I'm calling you out. Corey Dickerson for Daniel Murphy. Really good follow-up trade. Really good, bro. Hope you enjoy last place this year.
So I bet you accepted, right?
I bet you all these guys though that are free agents just love it, right? Imagine just being like sitting back. You're like, season I should be in spring training right now, sweating my A off. But guess what? I'm on my couch watching news reports about me and where I'm going to sign. Like, I'm in no rush.
But I haven't got an offer yet.
Like,
they're saying
don't forget they actually have a free agent spring training now that they're all going to. I think Adam Lind was at it until he signed with the Yankees.
Isn't that like IMG Academy or something? I think, yeah.
I think it's somewhere. It's out of there. I think they have one in Cali and one in Florida.
Makes sense.
And just
makes sense.
How awkward must that be? You're trading with a bunch of guys who definitely aren't going to be on your team, and like you're all vying for a job somewhere. I just imagine that's probably pretty weird.
Yeah, it's be like all those guys at that point really don't care. Like, oh yeah, you're going to this team. I'm going to this team. See, yeah, we're probably both going to win 80 games.
Hey, shout out to Aaron Carroll for taking future Yankee starter Chris Archer.
Yankees need Chris Archer or World Series is not going to happen. Just throwing that out there.
Correct. Also, shout out to
Chris Archer, my column.
Shout out Matt Graziano for future Yankee Manny Machado. You guys are it's going to pay off this year. Good picks.
Yeah, the numbers are going to skyrocket once they're wearing pinstripes at the midpoint.
That's how it works.
Well, Brandon Drury. Drury is going to hit like 30, 40 home runs. I think that was Chad Raines, our fearless leader himself, affectionately known as Keg Stand Hero in our fantasy draft.
He's known by a lot of things.
Known by a lot of things. But
I am the pace of play police in my fantasy draft because I'm a big proponent of shortening baseball games by 5 minutes. That's my life.
A lot of these names we can't read on air. We don't mind dropping the occasional one, but there's just Luigi's probably got the one that we can actually read.
Hey, I'm PG-13 out here. All right, well, that was a good show, guys. I'm telling you, we're gonna keep getting these out. We love doing this. We love bringing these to you guys. We love talking about the Yankees. And I mean, guys, this is only spring training. We're just going to have so much more to talk about once the season starts and once things actually happen. Once Giancarlo Stanton and Aaron Judge both hit a 500-foot home run in the same game, there's going to be a lot to talk about.
For sure, man. For sure.
So, any closing thoughts, guys?
Oh, I do. And that is yeeters.
Yeeters, boys.
Yeeters. See you next time.